This is a video I wish I didn't have to make, but alas, here I am. This video is about how to spot a bad therapist. Stay tuned. Probably running through the head of most therapists, if they were to make this video, myself included, is, gosh, I really hope that this video doesn't apply to me. To be honest, I think anyone who has that thought, that's probably a hopeful sign that this video may not be talking about them, but instead talking about somebody who is a valuable contribution to the therapeutic field. Today, I do want to talk about how to spot some warning signs of a therapist who may not be right for you or may just not be really right for the field at all. And I don't mean to say that too boldly or make any wide sweeping statements, but we have to be realistic that there are people who have gone into healthcare, whether that's psychologists, counselors, other therapists, nurses, doctors, psychiatrists, other helping professions, and they have gone into the profession perhaps for the wrong reasons, and also perhaps that they're just not in a healthy enough space to be providing quality healthcare to the patients or the clients that they serve. So let's review and talk about scenario number one. So a therapist who's just not the greatest fit for you. So you might have been thinking about seeking out some counseling for a while now and have decided to start searching. I don't know where you are, but where I'm located, there are a lot of therapists, and it can be hard to narrow it down to the appropriate provider. It can almost feel like trying to find that needle in a haystack. How do you find the appropriate provider for you? Well, for one thing, do your homework and do your research. Look at people who are located in a way that's convenient for you. So pick a therapist that you're actually going to be able to meet with consistently. Therapy is not just a one-time thing. It is going to need to ideally be a consistent relationship, and therefore you're going to need to be meeting with that person probably regularly, probably for a long time. So picking somebody who's across a city or really inconvenient for you probably isn't going to be viable. So do your homework, do your research on location, but then also start to dig into the person and the agency themselves. So watch any website that they have. If they're active on social media platforms, check out some of their material. You want somebody whose messaging speaks to you. You like their voice, you like their messaging. I don't mean their literal voice, although that can be helpful. If their literal voice irritated you, it's probably going to be hard to engage in an ongoing discussion with them. But I mean that you like their perspective, you like what they have to say. For step two, also find somebody who's a specialist and works in the area that you're needing some help for. If you're not sure what specific issue you're looking to treat, that's okay. Then perhaps seeking out somebody who does generalized mental health. So maybe looking for someone who says that they do life transitions, depression symptoms, anxiety symptoms, stress management. Those are often the areas that generalists and people who are just starting out into counseling, who don't quite know the direction that they want or need to go yet, would benefit from. Once you have identified a few possibilities, interview them. If they're available to do some free consultations, talk with them, book a phone call or book a small video appointment so that you can get to know them. You always have freedom of choice when it comes to your mental health, so don't just stick with somebody who you talk to the first time. Make sure that intuitively and instinctually it feels like a good fit for you. Pay attention to how you feel when you're with and around that person. Are you comfortable? Are you relaxed? Are you as open as you can be? Has this person created a safe environment that you want to open up and share more in? That's what counseling is all about. It's not an easy thing to open up and talk about the deepest, darkest parts of ourselves. So you need somebody who facilitates that, who asks questions that get you opening up more, and who has an approach that you feel comfortable with. It's all about your feelings, your comfort. Use your intuition to gauge, is this a fit for you? And that will start to lead you on the track of finding that best fit therapist for you at this time. Another thing to keep in mind is that your needs may change as time goes on. So that best fit therapist from 3 years ago may no longer be that best fit therapist for you today. Sometimes the therapists themselves can catch that, and they will start to provide suggestions or even referrals to other providers or agencies so that you can get the support that you're needing if they recognize that your issues are starting to go outside of their expertise, or perhaps they feel they've offered to you all that they can. Some therapists, however, may not realize that from the conversations you're having, or some therapists may not be willing to acknowledge that, and therefore you may need to self-advocate and just check in with yourself after your sessions. Am I still feeling comfortable? Am I still engaged? Am I still feeling like I'm getting value from this service? And if the answer to any of those questions is no, or I don't know, it might be important to reevaluate and perhaps go back to that initial step of re-looking at the different providers around to see if there's somebody else whose messaging speaks to you at this moment. Because again, your journey will change as time goes on. And it's okay to change therapists. It's okay to change your mind. So that brings us to, what are some of the red flags for a therapist who may not be that best fit therapist, whether that's for you or just in general at the current moment? I would say, for one, someone that you are not feeling comfortable with. You are just kind of having that heebie-jeebie intuition kind of niggling at you when you go to see them, perhaps before, perhaps after. Your intuition is a really strong barometer. So if there's indication that there's discomfort there, even though intellectually you may have no idea why you'd be uncomfortable with this person, I would say terminate your sessions, or at least take a break to see how that feels for you. The second thing to check in on is how you feel about the sessions afterwards, and if you find value in what you're getting from them. If their approach makes sense to you, usually people leave therapy with a sense of invigoration. They may not like what they're hearing, but they've liked how it's been shared, and they like the momentum that it's helping them build. If you're not feeling that, then again, might be time to relook for that best fit therapist. Other red flags to look for is somebody who shares a lot about themselves in the therapy session. This is your therapy session, so we want to make sure that whoever you're talking with is focused on you. Sure, some therapeutic self-disclosure may be appropriate from time to time, but that would be, an anecdote here or there. It wouldn't be monopolizing the session. So if your therapist seems to be making your therapy session more about them and their therapy session, that's a red flag to me. Other red flags are how that person maybe talks about and approaches other clients as well as other providers. If there's a lack of confidentiality, if your provider is sharing information about other clients that they've worked with and providing quite a bit of detailed information, maybe not to the point of names or specifics, if they are doing that, that's definitely a red flag. But if they're sharing enough information that you wouldn't feel comfortable having that type of information shared about you, then that's also a red flag. There's some very strict boundaries and guidelines regarding privacy and confidentiality in the healthcare field, and you deserve and want to make sure that those are being upheld. It is also an indicator how a professional talks about other professionals. You want somebody who has respect and openness to other ways of thinking, other providers, other therapeutic modalities. You don't want somebody who is very focused or rigid in their ways. Other red flags is if you just get a general sense that your therapist is not well, and this provides them difficulty really attuning and being focused on you in a session. This may be down to some physical health or even mental and emotional health issues. But if you're noticing a therapist be emotionally volatile, if they're quite distracted, if they look quite anxious, nervous, uncomfortable, if they're very fidgety, all of these things, again, just paying attention to their body language and their nonverbals, if that adds up to be showing that they're not present, they're not engaging, they're not attuned to the counseling session and able to provide the best quality service for you, that may be a red flag, and time to either bring that up with them if you feel comfortable and see what's going on. If it's a one-off or if this has been a consistent pattern, that might be your time to start to relook at other options for your therapeutic provider. Ultimately, the reason I'm making this video is I want people to remember how important your mental health and your overall health care is. There are lots of providers out there to go around. So if you're not feeling comfortable with your provider, whoever that is and whatever they're treating you for, there usually are other options. Now, it does become more difficult if you're in an area where there aren't other options. And in that case, you may have to do some serious consideration of whether staying with this provider truly is beneficial to you, or if pulling back may actually be more helpful. And obviously, as a therapist, I generally encourage people to move in the direction of therapy and care, but sometimes people do need a break from counseling. There may be other ways that you can access support, whether those are peer support, mutual support, kind of programs or groups or people. Perhaps getting support online through another provider may become an option, but advocate for yourself. Make sure that you're getting what you need, but you also deserve that quality health care. Obviously, another huge red flag is if you're ever experiencing any type of abuse from your provider, whether that's financial, verbal, emotional, physical, sexual. I know it's hard to think about this, but unfortunately it does happen. These are huge red flags that this is not a healthy or appropriate provider for you. Verbal and emotional abuse in that type of relationship can be harder to see if you find yourself feeling quite triggered when you're with that other person. If there's a lot of projection onto them, you start treating them in your mind like perhaps an abuser or a perpetrator from your past. This, again, some people would say there's a therapeutic opportunity there. At that point, it probably is just too triggering, and it might be time to look for a safer, more comfortable person that you can talk about that transference, projection, and what's going on there to support yourself in your journey. Unfortunately, there are some people out there who are not in a healthy place themselves, and maybe who got into the helping field, perhaps out of ego, perhaps out of monetary desires. I don't really know. I don't think this is a huge money-making field. I would think if someone was pursuing financial security and stability, they'd probably go do something else, but you never know that might be their motivation. I'm not really sure what the motivation of someone who's not equipped to be in the healthcare field would be to get into the healthcare field, but it does happen. Unfortunately, I've encountered and heard stories of some of these providers over the years, And it's sad, it's unfortunate that people trust us in the mental health community with a lot of personal, sensitive information and parts of themselves, and they deserve to have that be handled well, and they deserve the utmost of respect and trust and care in those helping relationships. I hope this has given you some food for thought. I hope that it will help you if you're looking for a provider and maybe have never done counseling before. I also hope that if you're currently receiving counseling, this is a good reevaluation point to make sure that you have that best fit therapist for you at the moment. And I would even say to the clients that I work with, if that changes, if your needs change, or if something's going on where you don't feel comfortable, I hope we can talk about it. But if that can't happen, then maybe it is time to look for another provider. Most healthcare providers truly want nothing but the best for their clients and patients. So whatever that looks like for you, we wish you the best. Thanks so much for watching. I appreciate the support, and I wish you all the best in your journey of mental health and emotional health. Bye for now.